And unfortunately, she never did, and this is one of the reasons she couldn't complete the tale. It's set. It actually uses some of Salem's real history. It's the age of Salem, when Salem. We have this witch city history, and of course everyone knows that. But I don't think as many people, you probably all know because you're from around here, but know that Salem's larger history, maybe more significant, is we were at once the richest city in the New World, and really the center of trade for America, the Americas. And in fact, when the Salem ships went to far ports, where they bribed natives with candy, Gibraltar candy spot in the first candy store in America, which was in Salem, they got favorable trading rights, and everyone thought that Salem was the country, and the colonies were part of Salem. So it's for a while, Salem had quite an ego, and quite a bit of wealth. And there's always history in my books, and this embedded history, both of Hawthorne and Melville in this case, and of the shipping trade, is what runs through this book. And really, I've used Salem as metaphor in 2 books. And the first one, of course, the comparison was to the witch trials in the first book, The Lace Reader. If you've read it, you know that. But it's not just because I live in Salem, it's because what is happening to Z is very much demonstrated by what happened to Salem. And, Salem was very wealthy leading up to the War of 1812, and then there were ships rotting at the docks, first of all because of the embargo, and later because of the war, and it never regained its wealth or its status. And I think it's a good comparison to Z, but also because what Salem is also known for is Nathaniel Bowditch and his new Practical American Navigator, I think. Did I say that backwards? Anyway, this book that he wrote way back in the Age of Sail is still on every Navy ship that's commissioned in the U.S. So it's used. He was first very fascinated by celestial navigation, which is the image system for the book I just wrote. And he was fascinated by the mathematics involved because he was a mathematician. So the image system for the whole book becomes celestial navigation. And of course, there's a dog named Bowditch. In his honor. I'm not sure he'd be honored, but it's a great dog. And there's also, we also have a cat in the book, Dusty, who is a real cat who lives at the House of Seven Gables. And if you go there, I really urge you to meet Dusty because he's quite famous now. And his ego is quite large. And I think he's going to be on the Animal Planet very soon. So anyway, that's a little background. When Z arrives in Salem to visit her father, as I said, she finds him much changed. And actually what she finds him doing is he's on a medication that causes hallucinations. It's a new medication, and it causes hallucinations in some Parkinson's patients. And when she finds him, he's actually believes at that time that he's Hawthorne, the man he studied for years. And he's recreated Hepzibah's scent shop in his front room. And since he's recently had a very bad argument with his a longtime companion, Melville, and Melville is not in the scene at the moment when Z arrives. He's decided he'll sell all Melville's things through the front window as if it's Hepzibah's scent shop. So he actually thinks he's Hawthorne. I won't read you that part because I've been urged to read another part, which is later on when Z is taking care of her dad. She realizes when she gets there that they've been hiding how sick he is from her. And she decides to stay, certainly until Melville can be located, and then when he is, she finds out a lot more than she thought. So she talks her father into going out and taking a ride with her one day, which is actually not that easy for him in his condition. So this is that scene. They drove as far as Hammond Castle before they turned back. Z bought Finch a coffee ice cream in a cup from Captain Dusty's on their way back through Manchester, and she drove out to the point where there was a clear view of Baker's Island. "We should sell that house," Finch said. This is her mother Maureen's house that was left to Z. "No," she said too quickly, realizing only now that it was the only place that was really hers, though she hadn't been there for years. It had been left first to Maureen and then to Z, with Finch as trustee. "It has some good memories," she said, "even for you." "I never set foot on that godforsaken island," he said. She knew better, but she also knew enough not to argue with a man who, in her opinion, was beginning to show signs of dementia. Finch's temper had quickened. She had no idea what was going to set him off these days. If his quick and apparently permanent dismissal of Melville for some old grievance was any indication, Z thought it better not to risk any such confrontation. She realized suddenly that she'd forgotten to give him his 3 o'clock meds, then cursed herself for not giving them to him before the ice cream. She got some bottles of water from the ice cream shop and went back for a paper cup when she realized that Finch could no longer coordinate the use of a straw. "I have to go to the bathroom," he said after a few minutes. He was too stiff to navigate, so they parked in the handicap spot, hoping not to get a ticket. Realizing he wasn't going to make it alone, she steered him toward the ladies' room. If he noticed, he didn't say so. The door to the stall didn't lock, and she held it closed for him. Several women came in and out. "Do you need help?" she asked Finch. "No," he said. She stayed, leaning against the door for what seemed a long time. After several more minutes, she let the door open slightly and peered into the stall. Finch sat, pants around his ankles, looking as if he were about to cry. The diaper he'd been wearing was now half off, half on, and hanging into the toilet. Oh God, she should have been helping him. "I'm sorry," he said. "It's okay," she answered. She gathered up the soiled diaper and stuffed it into the box marked feminine hygiene. She wiped him clean and helped him pull up his pants. "We'll get you a shower when we get home," she said. He nodded. When they exited the stall, Z noticed a grandmother standing at the row of sinks with her granddaughter, watching while the girl washed her hands. Z walked Finch to the sink next to them and helped him with the soap dispenser. "There's an old man in the ladies' room," the little girl said to her grandmother. Finch's face flushed. The grandmother gave Z an apologetic look. "Men are supposed to use the men's room," the little girl said to him. "Be quiet now," the grandmother said. "But they are." "Hush," the grandmother said, trying to distract the girl. "But they are." Z had never wanted to slap a child before, but she wanted to now. Instead, she took Finch's arm and walked him outside. As she led him into the car, she was trying hard not to cry. Things were hard enough for her father without her falling apart. So, and it isn't that dark either. We'll end on a really happy note. But I will explain a little more. As I said, our maps are changing. Since 9/11, financial crisis. What did the market do today? I heard terrible things. 900 points or something? I think it went back up. Oh, good. But anyway, we can't count on the things we used to count on. And that's the point. I read recently that just a few generations ago, people never moved more than 25 miles, or seldom, from where they were born, which to me sounds great. We have our family's kind of migrating to, we've been in Marblehead for generations, but the new generation has migrated to Colorado because it's a better style of living, standard of living for them, and they also like to ski, so that has something to do with it. But anyway, one of them's coming back tonight, and they visit a lot, but I can't say a word because I went to California, so I'm not allowed to say a word about it. But I think it's lovely when families stay around, but we can't count on that. And Salem's map is changing, and that's another reason for using Salem for this book. 10 years ago when I wrote The Lace Reader, everything was about the witches and, the tourist trade. And, you'd have stores open on Halloween. I think we got an extra 350,000 people during October. And to our normal, I think 40,000 or something like that. And they were trying to limit the number of haunted houses you could erect, interestingly, but per city block, which of course they couldn't do when they decided not to do because it's Salem and the tourist trade, we depend on the tourist trade. But it's 10 years later and we've been discovered. A lot of people are commuting to Boston to work, which is kind of fun. Real estate there is gorgeous. Some of the prettiest in the country, actually, beautiful federal houses and just great architecture. And so we've been discovered and people are commuting and buying up properties like crazy. Even the old jail, I don't know if you've ever seen the old Salem jail, but it's a Gothic, very dark Gothic building, and I was actually hoping to write about it, but now it's luxury condos, so I'm not going to get to. And we're getting zip cars in about a week, so things are getting better, but they're also losing a little bit of its funky nature, I'd say. Liz Mattei, who's Z's mentor, oh dear, Z's mentor, has a theory that women will always live out the unfulfilled dreams of their mothers.